In 1 year since 20-year-old Kania Brunson's murder, family and friends are honoring her memory. Police say a Milwaukee man killed Brunson, then set her remains on fire. 12 News reporter Emily Pofall checked in with Brunson's family at a vigil tonight as they wait for her alleged killer to go to trial.
Imagine the unimaginable, waking up one day to the news that your beloved daughter is missing. The confusion, the fear, the countless unanswered questions that fill your heart. You search endlessly, hoping for a sign, for some word, any word, that she's safe. But then, as the days went by, the worst news you could ever imagine comes. She's been found, lifeless, her body burned beyond recognition. This was the heartbreaking reality faced by the family of Kania Brunson, a 20-year-old woman from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A promising young woman with dreams of becoming useful to society. Kania's life was tragically cut short by the violence of a man who not only took her life, but also sought to erase any trace of it by setting her body on fire. Kania's story is one of unimaginable loss, a cruel reminder of how quickly a life filled with dreams and potential can be stolen. Her family, heartbroken, devastated, and determined to seek justice, would soon find themselves in a fight not only to understand what happened, but to hold the people responsible accountable for their actions. Let us quickly delve into the details to understand the murder of Kania Brunson. At just 20 years old, Kania was full of dreams and ambitions. Her interests were varied, and she had a passion for helping others. This passion drove her toward two distinct career paths: becoming an orthodontist or a veterinarian. Both careers reflected her dedication to improving the lives of people and animals alike. To work toward her goals, Kania enrolled in beauty school. This decision allowed her to gain valuable skills while also exploring her creative side. Those who knew her described her as joyful and hardworking. She approached life with enthusiasm and loved making others smile. Whether it was through her growing skills in beauty care or her warm and kind personality, Kania brought positivity to those around her. Despite her promising future, Kania faced challenges, one of which was her relationship with Sultan Sharif, a married man. Sharif was much older than Kania, and their relationship was described as complicated and ultimately dangerous. The exact circumstances that led to their involvement are unclear, but it is known that Kania trusted him, not knowing that this connection would lead to her tragic demise. On September 24, 2022, Kania Brunson's family reported her missing to the authorities. From the very start, they were filled with immediate worry, as it was completely unlike her to vanish without contacting someone or leaving a trace. Kania was someone who always kept in touch, always letting her loved ones know where she was or checking in. Her family knew something was seriously wrong when she failed to show up or answer calls. As the hours turned into days, that initial worry quickly turned into deep fear. The more time passed without hearing from her, the more the uncertainty grew. The family desperately reached out to anyone who might have seen her or heard from her, friends, acquaintances, neighbors, but each search came up empty. The fear that something had happened to Kania became undeniable. The Milwaukee Police Department was contacted and began their investigation immediately. The search involved interviews with Kania's family and friends to understand her recent activities, as well as her relationships and routines. Among the people investigators focused on was Sultan Sharif, a married man with whom Kania had been in a relationship. Sharif's connection to Kania raised suspicions, and investigators considered him a person of interest early in the case. During their initial inquiries, police uncovered evidence that Kania had last been seen alive with Sharif. Surveillance footage and phone records provided critical information that linked Sharif to Kania on the day she disappeared. However, Kania's whereabouts remained unknown. As the investigation progressed, law enforcement discovered a horrifying scene. Kania's body was found in a secluded area, burned beyond recognition. The condition of her remains made it clear that this was a homicide, and the brutality of the crime shocked even seasoned investigators. Once it was established that Kania had been murdered, the focus shifted to finding the person or persons responsible. Investigators turned their attention back to Sultan Sharif, who was already under scrutiny. As they delved deeper into his life, they uncovered a series of troubling details. Sharif was much older than Kania and already married when they began seeing each other. Their relationship was kept secret. They didn't want people to know about it. At first, it seemed like something hidden and small, but soon, it became clear to those around Kania that the relationship wasn't good. Witnesses began to notice that Sharif was controlling toward Kania. He would tell her what to do, who she could talk to, and when she could go places. People close to Kania could see she was uncomfortable whenever he was around. She seemed nervous and didn't act like herself. Kania didn't talk much about what was happening, but her friends and family could tell something wasn't right. Sharif would often act like he had the right to make decisions for her, and it seemed like he was trying to control everything she did. This made her feel stressed and trapped. Even though people noticed these things, Kania didn't tell anyone everything that was going on. She tried to keep it to herself, not wanting to cause problems. But deep down, she wasn't happy, and it was clear to those who cared about her that Sharif's controlling behavior was making her uncomfortable. Based on this information, authorities brought Sharif in for questioning. During the interrogation, his story was inconsistent, and he struggled to explain his whereabouts at critical times. His demeanor and the evidence against him made him the prime suspect in Kania's murder. Investigators gathered physical evidence, including surveillance footage, cell phone records, and forensic analysis of the crime scene. This evidence painted a clear picture of the events leading to Kania's death. Investigations further revealed that Kania had met with Sharif on the day she went missing. Evidence later showed that during their meeting, an argument took place. It was about Kania calling the wife of Sharif and telling her about their affair. This disagreement escalated to violence, and Sharif made the decision to end her life. The details of this crime are deeply disturbing, as it showed a lack of compassion and respect for her life. After taking Kania's life, Sultan Sharif didn't act alone in attempting to cover up his crime. Sharif reached out to his brother-in-law, Johnny Allen Hopgood, enlisting his help to conceal the evidence of what had happened. Together, they devised a plan to hide Kania's body, believing that by disposing of her in a remote area, they could avoid suspicion and throw off law enforcement's investigation. Under the cover of darkness, Sharif and Hopgood took Kania's lifeless body to a secluded location far from the city. It was here that they set her body on fire, hoping to destroy evidence, burning her beyond recognition in an attempt to make it difficult for authorities to identify her or uncover the truth. Sharif and Hopgood's actions were cold and calculated, driven by their desperation to cover their tracks. They thought that by erasing any physical remains, they could escape accountability for Kania's death. What they didn't anticipate was the cruelty of their actions, turning Kania's body into ashes, treating her as though she were nothing more than evidence to be disposed of. The fire they set not only caused her immense pain, but it also stripped away the final traces of who she was, leaving her family with nothing more than the agony of uncertainty. The thought that their daughter had been discarded in such a brutal and impersonal way added even more heartache to the already unbearable grief that Kania's parents endured. The arrest of Sharif and Hopgood was a significant step forward in the case and the beginning of the legal process to secure justice for Kania Brunson. Sharif was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, while Hopgood faced charges related to obstruction and resisting arrest. The arrests provided some relief to Kania's family, as they knew that the people responsible for her death were being held accountable. In the immediate aftermath of her death, Kania's family and friends came together to remember her life.
I never want to let nobody ever feel this type of pain.
Family and friends united by pain, gathering to grieve the loss of 20-year-old Kania Brunson.
It's terrible that we have to do this. I would have never thought that I would be burying my daughter before she buries me.
Friends came together to remember her life and seek justice. Vigils and memorials were held to honor her memory. Her parents spoke about the deep pain they felt and their determination to see those responsible for her death held accountable. The community joined them in calling for justice, with many people expressing outrage over the brutality of the crime. As the evidence against Sharif and Hopgood mounted, it became clear that justice would prevail. The strength of the case built by investigators ensured that those responsible for Kania's death would face the consequences of their actions. Sharif faced the most serious charges, including first-degree intentional homicide and mutilating a corpse, prosecutors presented a compelling case against him, outlining his actions on the day of Kania's murder and the subsequent attempts to cover it up. The evidence included surveillance footage, phone records, and forensic reports, all of which pointed to Sharif's direct involvement. The prosecution provided details on how Sharif had planned and carried out the murder. They described the argument that took place between him and Kania on the day she disappeared. This argument escalated into violence, culminating in Sharif taking Kania's life. After committing the murder, they presented evidence to show how Sharif sought the help of his brother-in-law, Hopgood, to dispose of her body. The court also heard testimony from witnesses, including investigators and forensic experts. Their accounts provided a clear timeline of events and demonstrated the calculated nature of the crime. The forensic evidence was particularly damning, as it confirmed that Kania's body had been burned in an effort to destroy evidence. Hopgood's role in the crime was also scrutinized during the trial. While he was not charged with murder, his involvement in helping Sharif dispose of Kania's body was undeniable. Hopgood pleaded guilty to charges of obstruction and resisting arrest, acknowledging his part in the aftermath of the crime. His plea agreement meant that he avoided a trial, but it also ensured that he would face legal consequences for his actions. During the trial, the defense for Sultan Sharif made every attempt to cast doubt on the evidence presented by the prosecution. They argued that much of the evidence against him was circumstantial and lacked concrete proof of his direct involvement in Kania Brunson's death. Sharif's attorneys suggested alternative explanations for the events that led to Kania's disappearance, implying that there could have been other factors at play. They pointed to the fact that no single piece of evidence directly linked Sharif to the murder beyond circumstantial connections, such as phone records, surveillance footage, and witness testimonies. The defense also sought to discredit the reliability of some forensic evidence, questioning the accuracy of the reports and casting doubt on the chain of custody. However, these arguments proved ineffective in swaying the jury. The prosecution presented a strong and comprehensive case that left little room for uncertainty. They meticulously laid out a clear timeline of events, supported by surveillance footage that captured Sharif's actions leading up to and following Kania's disappearance. Phone records were also introduced, showing conversations between Sharif and Kania on the day she went missing, including the call she made to Sharif's wife. Forensic evidence, such as DNA traces, burn patterns on the body, and expert analysis, painted a damning picture of Sharif's involvement. The prosecution's team carefully connected each piece of evidence, painting a detailed and irrefutable narrative that left the jury with little doubt about Sharif's guilt. As the trial unfolded, Kania's family remained steadfast in their pursuit of justice. They attended court proceedings to honor her memory and advocate for accountability. The strength and resilience they displayed during this difficult time inspired others in the community to stand with them. Throughout the legal proceedings, Kania's story resonated with many people in the Milwaukee community and beyond. Her case shed light on the dangers of abusive relationships and the importance of taking action to protect those at risk. Advocacy groups used her story as an example to raise awareness about domestic violence and the need for support systems to help vulnerable individuals. The trial also highlighted the tireless work of law enforcement and prosecutors in pursuing justice. Their dedication to uncovering the truth and building a strong case ensured that Kania's killers were brought to justice. After several weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict in the trial of Sultan Sharif. The evidence presented during the trial painted a clear and undeniable picture of his actions. His argument with Kania that escalated into violence, the murder itself, and his deliberate attempt to cover up his crime by burning her body. After careful consideration, the jury found Sharif guilty of first-degree intentional homicide and mutilating a corpse. The conviction carried a mandatory life sentence, reflecting the extreme severity of his actions and the irreversible damage caused to Kania's family and community. In addition to the life sentence, the judge imposed an additional 12 years for the charge of mutilating Kania's body. This ensured that Sharif would spend the rest of his life behind bars, unable to cause further harm to anyone else. The community felt a sense of justice being served, but the pain of Kania's loss would linger forever. The judge made it clear during the sentencing that a life sentence was warranted for Sultan Sharif due to his extensive criminal history, which painted a troubling picture of his repeated involvement in violent and abusive behavior. Sharif's past offenses, combined with the brutality of Kania Brunson's murder, showed a pattern of dangerous conduct that had continued over the years. The judge noted that Sharif had been given multiple opportunities to reform, but instead of learning from his mistakes, he chose to persist in his harmful actions. His unwillingness, or inability, to change his ways was evident, leading to the conclusion that he posed a continued threat to society. Johnny Allen Hopgood, Sharif's brother-in-law, who was directly involved in helping Sharif cover up the crime, chose a different path. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Hopgood ultimately decided to plead guilty to obstruction and resisting arrest. Though justice was served, the pain of losing Kania remained. Her family continued to honor her memory through various initiatives and gatherings. They worked to raise awareness about the dangers of abusive relationships and the importance of protecting vulnerable individuals. Kania's death also highlighted the importance of community vigilance and the role that law enforcement and legal systems play in seeking justice. Many people in the community expressed gratitude to the Milwaukee Police Department and the prosecutors who worked tirelessly to hold Sultan Sharif and Johnny Allen Hopgood accountable for their actions. This collaboration between the legal system and the community showed the importance of working together to address issues of violence and crime. Kania's story, though tragic, became a powerful force for change. It sparked conversations about domestic violence, the need for early intervention, and the importance of holding perpetrators accountable. Her family's efforts to advocate for others who might find themselves in similar situations gave new meaning to their loss, transforming their pain into a mission to protect others from suffering the same fate. Thank you for watching our video. Share your thoughts with us in the comments section, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember to hit the notification bell for more videos.